Hi, Fraser.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. We're back again.
Yes.
Yep.
And what are we doing, Shelly?
Well, we're doing flops on my channel, which is the worst books that we read this month. I feel really rusty because I haven't even really made a video in a while because my parents were here. But anyways, we're talking about the worst books that we read in June, and we're smiling at the good and frowning at the bad. So we're frowning today.
Frowning. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yep.
I like it.
How many frowns do you have?
I have three.
Oh, you have three. Okay,
Yeah.
I can't talk about some of my books because they're for the booktube prize, and some I only
Oh,
have two.
you are being silenced.
Yes, I am. I mean, the thing is like it's nuanced, when you're doing like at least at the level that I am, when
The
you're
high
a
level.
master. No,
When you're
I
a
mean this.
master of the prize.
I know what I was gonna say when you're a master reader like I am, but I was like, oh gosh, I sound like such a snob. Um, no, when one is like, because this is round three of four,
Yep.
and so it just feels like a lot of the really bad books have been weeded out, and so I
Mm.
have like most of them they've all been entertaining, but some have better qualities than others. So it's hard to be like this was just such a fail because none of them have been thus far. So
Thus
yeah,
far. Fingers crossed.
I know. I'm hoping.
Is it nonfiction?
Yeah,
Oh,
nonfiction.
then you're a liar. Some of them are terrible for sure.
You just out and said.
Well,
How
maybe
rude.
some of them are okay. Maybe last year was just a rough go of it.
What round did you judge?
Nonfiction?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
the first round, second round, third round, fourth round.
Yeah,
Not
I
the
don't
fourth round.
remember. No,
Well,
I don't think it was the first round, but
bad memory has let you down.
it was definitely not the last one because the last one was just fiction again. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well,
And are we going from least disliked to most disliked again?
I don't know. I don't really have like a levels. I don't.
No?
I felt like Kramer talking about his levels. I don't have. I mean, they were both not terrible, just not good. We're frowning. We're just frowning at them. I don't have a progression of crappiness.
I think I might. So maybe I'll start with the one that I took the most exception to.
Okay.
Exceptions. It wasn't exceptional. It was something I took exception to Love and Be Wise, by Josephine Tay. That was this is
Oh,
the one that had some transphobia in it, where it was like obviously she wrote them in the 50s, 40s,
yeah.
something like
Like,
that, right?
yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, like it's very like, have you heard of trans people before? And it's like transsexuals, so it's like antiquated terminology and stuff that you would expect from
Mm.
that, although trans people have existed forever. But yeah, it was also just like very boring and meandering at the same time. So I was just kind of like, not only did I not get the payoff that I got from earlier ones, because the book before it was really great. I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
And then the one after it, I was just like, so this doesn't go anywhere. It's transphobic. And it does this sort of quintessential transphobic thing where it's sort of like um is fetishistic when talking about them at the same time as characterizing them as criminals.
hmm.
So it's
Weird.
like, yeah, a two-punch double whammy of you shouldn't have gone there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was just, offensively boorish. Or
Oh,
not,
okay.
well, yeah, boorish and boring. The double B.
You're all about the vocabulary today.
I guess so.
Exception two, boorish. I mean, goodness. And here I
Hmm.
am. I'm going to be like, here is my plain language for the books I did not like.
Well, what is your
Oh.
first meh book, I guess?
Oh, the first one, the more I get away from it, the more I dislike it. And it's Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese or Verghese. It's a multi-generational family saga, which should have been my first tip off because most of the time I just don't really love multi-generational family sagas. Partly because you always, when you're going through several generations, people die. And I feel like you can always like pinpoint the ones that are gonna die, like in their first few paragraphs. You're like, and he's gonna die, she's gonna die, like in the read with like throughout the read. And but I think some of it was just like a lack of connection between a couple of the characters, and the characters I did like didn't have enough airtime. And but the thing was is that I walked past the because I had it on my Kindle, and it's I walked past it at a Barnes and Noble, and the thing is like this massive brick, and I was like, I really spent that much time with that. Like, I was like, it was just not worth it. I'm like it's I had a Fraser moment where I was like, and deleted. But it's kind of sad because it's like I did spend so much time with the book. It was a long read, and it just didn't leave any kind of impression on me. Um, I don't know. And so it's hard to both think, oh gosh, I spent, all those pages with that author, and then to just think you didn't do anything for me. You were giving
Yeah.
nothing. You were giving nothing. I was like, what is this? Well,
Okay, we could stop talking about Trust by Hernan Diaz now.
I think a lot of people are going to come for you with that one because a lot of people like Trust.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of people
Yeah.
like that book,
Yeah, they do.
but they're
Did win the
wrong.
Pulitzer too, by the way. Wait, what? They're wrong.
Nothing.
Oh my gosh. What's your next flop
My
or
next flop
frown?
is Queen of the Damned, the third Vampire Chronicle book. So
I
last
heard
month,
it
I think,
drops off there.
yeah, the
Isn't it like
Lestat,
a 17 book series?
yeah, something like that. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Oh,
Lestat was
no.
getting better. Like we were on an uphill trajectory off of that baby, but then, yeah,
This is
Queen of
by
the
Anne Rice,
Damned,
by the way.
yeah, Anne Rice, third in the Vampire Chronicles.
Number 3. She couldn't
Yeah,
keep it up.
yeah. This one's just very like it had none of the interesting aspects to the second book, which like are instilled with the vitality of Lestat, like his charisma, his like
Oh.
sort of seductive qualities that a vampire generally has,
Hmm.
like really bled through the entire story of that book. Whereas this is just so, again, kind of like meandering. It didn't feel like it kind of knew what it was doing or where it was going. But the main issue it had was Lestat ended at a like really big cliffhanger, and this book didn't pick up at that cliffhanger until like probably halfway into the book or something. Like
Oh,
it
yeah?
delved into another vampire and their story and all this like this other character I had no idea about, and these like, yeah, there's another character who belongs to like this family who like is obviously a member of this vampire family that she has like no idea about. She's like, oh yeah, I have this like for as long as we've known, it was like Magda or something, whoever this lady was, forgettable lady that she was. There's always been a Magda in the family, like it's almost like a title, like that somebody assumes, and she sort of like is a caretaker of the new initiates into the family, like especially the women. She would guide their education. She was almost like governess, but like not physically present ever.
Yeah.
It's like
Huh.
via email and like word of mouth, like Magda says you should do this or whatever. So this is what you're going to be doing. I mean, of course, it's a vampire, right? That it's always been the same person, and the entire time I'm like, this is the third book. Like, are you thinking that people are going to be shocked about this or something? But it follows this woman's story that's so boring. But when we do get to a sort of like meteor chunk where it is about Magda's story, which is like ancient, of course, because they're vampiric. That part was pretty interesting. She sort of like does a tell all about the actual history of the vampires. So if you want to know about like how vampires were made, like the curse of the vampire and like the actual
Right.
prescriptive elements of the curse and why that happened and what occurred and everything, those
Mhm.
parts are interesting. But really, that was probably it. And by the time it gets to the cliffhanger at the end of Lestat, I'm just kind of like, oh right, this was happening as well. So
Weird.
yeah, it just is a very strange construction. I think the structure should have been reorganized, and that the boring parts could have been truncated, and it would easily have been at least more readable. As is, this is the first 2-star of the series for me.
Sorry. But I know. Wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, I really liked the first book, Interview with a Vampire, and I thought it was really readable, but I had heard because I had done a video about it, and so of course all the peeps come out and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, just so you know, she loses a lot of readers." Sort of, I think maybe around that point.
Probably why.
So yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they were like, "Oh, your first couple books were amazing, so do whatever you want. We're gonna edit very little." And then you're like, "That didn't really work out."
Yeah. It felt like
Yeah.
she did like Interview with the Vampire, and maybe they like dictated a few things about that book to make it a commercial success guaranteed. And then the second
Mm,
one, they're like, you can do whatever you want. You sold 1 million copies. Woo. And she was like, okay,
right.
this is a story I actually want to tell. And
Huh.
they're like, bam, slam dunk. And then after that, they're like, okay, but this is a cash cow. So
Keep it
keep
going.
it going. Yeah. And she was like, okay.
It's so yeah, yeah, interesting. I wonder what she
You
would
know,
say about her own career, like about what she would like how she would go back and look at it. But
um,
interesting. Um, yeah. Huh. Well, can I share my last one? My last
your last one.
yeah,
Yes.
I only have two this month, and I
Just pick
really have
another
to
one.
dig it. No, I just can't.
Just pick a not perfect.
I don't think I can. I'll look. I don't. I mean, it's just like when it because then we're getting into territory, but then we would get into lies
Lies.
or books I can't talk about. Yeah,
Okay.
because yeah, I just can't because
All
like
right.
um, well. I mean, I could, but anyways, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not. Don't convince me otherwise.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is one that we read together, and it was Bad News, the second in the Patrick
Mm.
Melrose series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. The first book was really interesting. It was about It's a story about this young man. I think so. I get the sense after reading the first and second book that the way that what is his name? I don't even know.
Patrick Melrose? Oh, the
Edward St.
author?
Auburn, the author,
Yeah.
the way that he's structuring it is like almost like he has this 5 book series, and every book you kind of check in with a glimpse into Patrick Melrose, who's the main character, his life, and it's semi-autobiographical. So it makes sense. It's like, you get these sort of moments in his like peak. So the first book is a day in the life of Patrick Melrose when he's 5, but it's not a slice of life. It's sort of it's off. I mean, it's kind of awful, but in the best way. And the writing is very beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. And it was like looking into a window of someone's life, and you weren't supposed to see what you were seeing, but you were like watching anyways. And it was like such a train wreck that you couldn't look away. So kind of a lot of metaphors there. in the second book, you were checking in with Patrick Melrose when he is in his early 20s, and he is just a drug addict through and through and going through a lot of trauma. And the thing was is that it kind of bored me because I had read books of young people sort of doing the same thing that he's doing, like looking for his next fix. And I wanted to, like, even if it was sort of unknowable to him, like I would love to have seen, like, I just wanted more of who he was rather than what he was doing. And I got more of what he was doing versus who he was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was more like, for all the stories we've read about people struggling with addiction and the filtering down of that addiction affecting their lives into like very dysfunctional behavior. It was basically that, except they were like, this happens to rich people too. You know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't know. It was just more of like, you know,
Yeah.
you were showing me through your day, and like his sort of wild, nuts, like completely unlike my life kind of day. And I think if it was the first of its kind that I read, I would have been really interested. But instead,
Yeah.
it's like I've read a couple of these, and so it felt kind of run of the mill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
But it
liked
wasn't
it
like
less than the
terrible.
first one too.
Hmm. But it wasn't terrible. It was just not one that I was itching to get back to. Whereas the first one, I was sort of like, oh my gosh, these people are wretchedly train wrecked, and I want to know all of the stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't give me that feeling. So yeah. But interestingly, you've only told me that in the television series, it's played by Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
And in my mind, the images I came up with was him, like him doing all the stuff.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there's
Imagination
episodes of
wins.
Sherlock where he is basically
I
just
know.
doing that.
I know. Which I have seen Sherlock. I haven't seen the Patrick Melrose, but I had thought about that because he's just like he's so he's like detached from this world because of drugs.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
Sherlock's addicted to cocaine as well.
Oh
So
yeah. I forgot about that.
yeah, he's into the drugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So
Okay.
what's your
Well,
worst?
yeah. My worst is coming off of the massive list of the best manga, or manga that you'll ever read, and it's called Gantz, Gantz, by Hiroya Oku, and it was just massively terrible. Like it was very like Shonen and Jump, which is like catered towards teenagers. So there's like a right away like a naked woman appears. There's all these very strange things happening. At the very beginning, basically, there's this drunk man on the tracks, and we get the sense like that our main character is exceptionally unlikable. He's just like, oh, another drunk, the train's gonna come and he's gonna die or whatever. And he just doesn't really care. He's very detached. He's kind of like rude to this old grandma on the tracks as well, who like asks for directions, and he's kind of like, bugger off or whatever. So he's kind
Hmm.
of a dick. There's no way to empathize with him really. I don't think. But somehow there's also like a boyhood friend of his who's also on the tracks who he kind of barely remembers. And this boy decides to go down on the tracks and save the drunk and stuff. And he like peer pressures him into helping, because it's very hard to like deadlift this dude
Sure.
off the tracks. Only it ends up being that they save the man, but they both die. They get hit by the train, but they don't die. They get like reassembled in this other dimension, world, place, or whatever, and they end up
Yeah.
in a room of other people who have died. And then right after that, a woman who has like apparently committed suicide, so she's completely naked because she was in a tub, is there as well. And immediately one of the other men like tried to basically sexually assault her. It's
Oh.
like so weird, but then it turns into them being a team. Like there's this object in the room that sort of tells them if they want to, continue living versus, you know, just be dead like they were before. They have to do this thing, and it turns into them like being in body armor and having guns and going to have to like do this mission. And of course they're all like sexualizing this woman as well. Like even on the cover it's like her in this like skin tight bodysuit thing, and I'm just like, what? So it's basically another manga where it's like, are you an incel? Can you like be into this guy who's a complete asshole and can't get laid because he's a dick and he's probably too young to be having sex anyway? Would you like that? Do you like guns? Do you like aliens? Do you like guns with robots and stuff? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not, you know, like I think even when I was 14, I wouldn't be into this. It's so trash. But yeah, it's somehow one of the best manga of all time. And this seems to be like a trend for me, where I'm just like, these best
Oh,
of manga is like very tailored towards a male audience. I have refreshingly, in the last few days at least, read a couple that were pretty good. But yeah, overall, this whole like
interesting.
mission is like, you know, the Booker reading of last year where I was like, this is going to be great. I'm like, trash, 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 trash. Oh, but I did read Four Gems. Was it worth it? No.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You did go, you were like, the booker. I'm gonna fully throw all of myself and my reading powers into this thing. Like, oh,
Yeah. And then it killed me, or at
it
least my
did.
reading soul.
I know. And I was like, are you ever gonna read another literary fiction ever in your life? And you're like, maybe one day.
Yeah. Yep. So
Wow.
yeah, that was Gantz. I gave it, you know, two installments, which is like I think like 114 pages or something. Like
It's
it's
very
a good amount of
specific.
it. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm just like,
No, it's not where it's at. Well, thank you for sharing books that I can avoid,
yeah.
giving me time.
Hmm.
Um,
And I look
go to
forward to your
Fraser's.
mysterious books that you cannot
Oh
speak
yeah, I
about.
know it's kind of like it's like dry June, and then it's gonna be like overflowing July because I'll have
Uh,
like all the books to talk about.
you're just waiting for the bootleggers to arrive.
Yeah, dry. I know, dry June and then juicy July. So
Juicy July.
exactly, exactly. Well, we're gonna talk about the greatest hits on your channel. We're gonna
Hmm.
smile at the good, frown at the bad, like Madeline.
Yeah.
And yeah, did you read those books when you were a kid?
Madeline?
Hmm.
No, I don't know what
No.
that is.
Okay, so never mind. You the reference is lost on you.
Yep.
Yeah, like the smallest one was Madeline. Anyways, it's a picture book.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
12
Sounds
little
neat.
girls, 12 little girls in two straight lines. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna
Hmm.
stop there. Go to Fraser's channel. I've got a bone to pick with you too about your channel, your audience.
But
It's
my
not you.
audience.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All
She's
right.
coming.
Well, all right. I'll be over there in a second. So
Okay, bye.
bye.